The 2020 elections come up, the Democrats are hoping that the voters are paying attention to the impeachment trial and hearings. The one thing the Democrats failed on was to persuade the Republicans to impeach 45 and remove him. The House Democrats were prepared and passionate as they laid out over 3 draining days in the Senate a detailed argument for impeaching and removing 45. What they do not appear to have been is persuasive to the critical handful of Republicans who hold the key to their immediate objective, gaining access to witnesses and documents that could cement the case. While Senate Republicans commended Democrats for a thorough and mainly respected presentation, they gave no indication as the arguments drew to a close that they were ready to expand the scope of the trial and let alone to vote and remove 45 from office at the end of it. The sense in the Capitol was that the trial was heading toward its predictable conclusion, 45's acquittal as early as next week. It has always been only a small group of Republicans who were truly considered possible defectors who might join Democrats in the volatile issue of seeking witnesses in the trial. Senators Susan Collins of Maine and Mitt Romney of Utah have been the most forward-leaning of the Republicans who have expressed openness to the idea, but their ranks appear to be thinning this week. Senator Lamar Alexander, a Republican from Tennessee, who had signaled potential interest and concern in new evidence, said on Friday he would wait until after he hears the squatter's defense and senators have time to question the lawyers to make his decision, but he did not sound eager to push the proceeding into the unknown. As the House managers have said many times before, they have presented us with a mountain of overwhelming evidence, so we've had a lot to consider, he told reporters. Another possible vote for witnesses, Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, also sounded reluctant on Thursday, citing an argument being made by the squatter's legal team and her more conservative colleagues against extending this trial. The House made the decision that they didn't want to slow things down by having to go through courts, Murkowski said, and yet now they're basically saying, you guys, the Senate got to go through the courts, we didn't, but we need you to. And on Friday, when Representative Adam Schiff, the lead House manager, referred to a news report that Republican senators had been warned that their heads would be on a pike if they strayed from 45, Collins and Murkowski were among those visibly outraged by that statement. Polls showed that the public, including a large portion of independents and even Republicans, is increasingly supportive of hearing a new evidence, but for Democrats, persuading Republicans in the Senate was always a tall order. Republicans have long argued that the Democrats' main aim is to use impeachment to increase their chances of winning the White House. That's not true. Holding the House and seizing the Senate this fall by energizing their votes, independents and Republicans uncomfortable with 45, while putting endangered Senate Republicans in the hot seat. This has irritated the Republicans, sharpening their determination to stick together and push back against the efforts to prolong this trial. There has never been a likelihood in a partisan impeachment that you would remove the squatter, so you have to look at what else it might be about, said Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri, a member of the Republican leadership, and it is all about politics. Democrats rigorously disputed this claim. Senator Chuck Schumer of New York, the party leader, said at the start of the week that Democrats were only doing their constitutional duty and were not motivated by a political game. Still, while Democrats might be loath to acknowledge it publicly, a clear subtext of the trial was the opportunity to portray 45 as unfit for office, which he is, and indeed dangerous, which also he is too. If Republican senators refuse to recognize that, if they're willing to look the other way and tolerate his ignorant behavior, they argued in stark terms as they stood in the Senate chamber this week, then they should be ousted from office as well. The American people deserve a squatter they can count on to put their interests first, which 45 doesn't do. 45 puts himself first, declared Schiff in an emotional speech on Thursday that sounded as much like a broadside delivered from a podium at a squatter nominating convention as an oral argument given from the well of the Senate during a rare impeachment trial. His comments and delivery drew effusive praise from those who sided with him, but if those words were meant to stir Senate Republicans to entertain the idea of summoning administration officials to testify before the Senate, it still fell short. Multiple Republicans senators said they were offended by Schiff's pointed portrayal of the squatter as a craven politician who would always put himself before the public, which he has, which suggested that they, by declining to condemn him, were failing in their duty as well. Republicans added the Democrats' comments to their ever-expanding list of reasons to oppose extending the proceedings by demanding budget documents and subpoenaing witnesses such as Mick Mulvaney, the acting White House Chief of Staff, and John Bolton, the former security advisor. Many Republicans, after 4 days of being confined to the Senate chamber with more to come, said they had heard enough and heard it over and over again as the House Democrats used repetition to hammer home the claim that 45's actions on pushing Ukraine to investigate a political rebel while he withheld military aid merited his ouster. It became mind-numbing after a while, said Senator Lindsey Graham, a Republican of South Carolina. While the repetition was exasperating to Republican senators, it may have been beneficial to Democrats. For in arguing their case against the squatter, Democrats were appealing not only to reluctant Senate Republicans, but to the American public still absorbing and processing the accusations against the squatter. While the Senate verdict could come soon, the public judgment would not be rendered until November. And while Democrats might not reach their overachieving goal of ousting the squatter before the election, they've had some political success in the trial, notably forcing Senate Republicans to take a series of tough votes at the start of the proceedings. One thing Senator Mitch McConnell, Republican of Kentucky, and the majority leader is always eager to avoid is having his embattled incumbents put on the spot. Through his control of the floor, he's usually able to do so. But in the framework of the impeachment trial, he could not stop Democrats who forced Republicans to vote not just against witnesses, but against specific ones such as Mulvaney and Bolton. This is about Susan Collins. Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming told reporters as he listed the names of embattled Republicans from North Carolina, Arizona, and Colorado who, like Collins, are facing voters this fall. This is about Tom Tillis. This is about Martha McSally. Martha Cunt McSally. This is also about Cory Gardner. Only one part of it is removing 45 and taking his name off the ballot, Barrasso said. It's about Chuck Schumer trying to make himself a majority leader of the United States Senate, and there's no way to deny this. Republicans said the squatter's record and conduct should be a matter of voters to deal with in November, not by the Senate in January. As to Schiff's discussion about why we need to remove the squatter, I think you saw in there some animosity towards the squatter that needs to be resolved at the ballot box, not in the court of impeachment, Graham said. In some ways, Democrats have always been known that would be the ultimate resolution. Why they might lose in the trial, they hope their prosecution helps deliver them wins in November. I don't think that's really the case, but we need to get 45 out of office.